Chapter 2, Section 8 of the Greek View of Life by Goldsworthy Lowes Dickinson. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Martin Geeson. Chapter 2, Section 8 Property and the Communistic Ideal. And as we have seen, this internal schism of the Greek state was as much social as political. The many and the few were identified respectively with the poor and the rich, and the struggle was thus at bottom as much economic as political. Government by an oligarchy was understood to mean the exploitation of the masses by the classes. An oligarchy, says a democrat, as reported by Thucydides, while giving the people the full share of danger, not merely takes too much of the good things, but absolutely monopolises them. And similarly, the advent of democracy was held to imply the spoliation of the classes in the interest of the masses, either by excessive taxation, by an abuse of the judicial power to fine, or by any other of the semi-legal devices of oppression which the majority in power have always at their command. This substantial identity of rich and poor respectively with oligarch and democrat may be further illustrated by the following passage from Aristotle. In consequence of the political disturbances and contentions between the commons on the one hand and the rich on the other, whichever party happens to get the better of its opponents, instead of establishing a polity of a broad and equal kind, assumes political supremacy as a prize of the victory, and sets up either a democracy or an oligarchy. We see then that it was the underlying question of property that infused so strong a rancour into the party struggles of Greece. From the very earliest period, in fact, we find it to have been the case that political revolution was prompted by economic causes. Debt was the main factor of the crisis which led to the legislation of Solon, and a redivision of the land was one of the measures attributed to Lycurgus. As population increased, and in the maritime states commerce and trade developed, the problem of poverty became increasingly acute. And though it was partially met by the emigration of the surplus population to colonies, yet in the 5th and 4th centuries we find it prominent and pressing, both in practical politics and in speculation. Nothing can illustrate better how familiar the topic was, and to what free theorising it had led, than the passages in which it is treated in the comedies of Aristophanes. Here, for example, is an extract from the Ecclesiazusai, which it may be worth while to insert as a contribution to an argument that belongs to every age. Praxagora. I tell you that we are all to share alike, and have everything in common, instead of one being rich and another poor, and one having hundreds of acres, and another not enough to make him a grave, and one a houseful of servants, and another not even a paltry footboy. I am going to introduce communism and universal equality. Blepsyrus. How communism? That's just what I was going to tell you. First of all,
everybody's money and land, and anything else he may possess will be made common property. Then we shall maintain you all out of the common stock, with due regard to economy and thrift.
But how about those who have no land, but only money that they can hide?
It will all go to the public purse. To keep anything back will be perjury.
Perjury? Well, if you come to that, it was by perjury it was all acquired.
And then money won't be the least use to anyone.
Why not?
Because nobody will be poor. Everybody will have everything he wants: bread, salt fish, barley cake, clothes, wine, garlands, chickpeas. So what will be the good of keeping anything back? Answer that if you can.
Isn't it just the people who have all these things that are the greatest thieves?
No doubt under the old laws. But now, when everything will be in common, what will be the good of keeping anything back?
Who will do the field work?
The slaves. All you will have to do is to dress and go out to dinner in the evening.
But what about the clothes? How are they to be provided?
What you have now will do to begin with, and afterwards we shall make them for you ourselves.
Just one thing more. Supposing a man were to lose his suit in the courts, where are the damages to come from? It would not be fair to take the public funds.
But there won't be any lawsuits at all.
That will mean ruin to a good many people. Bystander. Just my idea.
Why should there be any?
Why, for reasons enough, heaven knows. For instance, a man might repudiate his debts.
In that case, where did the man who lent the money get it from? Clearly, since everything is in common, he must have stolen it.
So he must. An excellent idea. But now tell me this. When fellows come to blows over their cups, where are the damages to come from?
From the rations. A man won't be in such a hurry to make a row when his belly has to pay for it.
One thing more. Will there be no more thieves?
Why should anyone steal what is his own?
And won't one be robbed of one's cloak at night?
Not if you sleep at home.
Nor yet if one sleeps out, as one used to do.
No, for there will be enough and to spare for all. And even if a thief does try to strip a man, he will give up his cloak of his own accord. What would be the good of fighting? He has only to go and get another, and a better, from the public stores.
And will there be no more gambling?
What will there be to play for?
And how about house accommodation?
That will be the same for all. I tell you, I am going to turn the whole city into one huge house, and break down all the partitions, so that every one may have free access to every one else.
The social problem, then, had clearly arisen in ancient Greece, though no doubt in an infinitely simpler form than that in which it is presented to ourselves. And it might perhaps have been expected that the Greeks, with their notion of the supremacy of the state, would have adopted some drastic public measure to meet it. And in fact, in the earlier period of their history, as has been indicated above, we do find sweeping revolutions effected in the distribution of property. In Athens, Solon abolished debt, either in whole or part, by reducing the rate of interest and depreciating the currency. and in